I am Milva Valenzuela Wagner, the director of the Center for Nonprofit Resources, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, how to use AI tools effectively and ethically for grant writing. So thank you so much for joining us. And before we get started, I would like to announce that our next in-person workshop will be on succession planning, and that is going to be on June 11th at 9 o'clock at the main branch of the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. We will have Sheila Easton as our presenter that day, and we are collaborating to bring that workshop to you free of charge because of our collaboration with the Toledo Lucas County Public Library and the Northwest Ohio Human Resources Association. And if you haven't yet, please sign up for our free e-newsletter on our website at C4 and the letters NPR.org. Through our e-newsletter, you will be kept informed of all the offerings that we have, not only on workshops, but also grant opportunities and other relevant information for nonprofits. In the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started with an introduction of our presenter. We will ask you that if you have any questions, that you can save those for after the presentation. You can use the question and answer feature of the Zoom to start putting in your questions, and then we'll go over those after the presentation. So I am very pleased to introduce today Dr. Abhishek Bhatti, and he is an associate professor of political science and director of the Asian Studies program at Bowling Green State University. And his research and teaching concentrates on the intersection of nonprofit organization and civil society, political science, and public administration. And Dr. Bhatti has received several international and national grants, including the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law. He has won the Wilson Bill Lewis Fundraising Research Award from the Association of Fundraising Professionals. And he serves as a member of the Planning Commission at the City of Bowling Green, Ohio, and is a trustee at the Bowling Green Community Foundation. His work has appeared in many nonprofit and public administration journals, such as the Public Administration Review, the Journal of Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Marketing, the Nonprofit Management and Leadership, Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Quarterly, and many others, such as the Foundation Review also. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Bhatti to you, who will be our presenter today. We hope that you learn lots about AI and the use of it for grant writing. And Dr. Bhatti, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Milva. And thanks everyone for joining and spending your Thursday afternoon with us here. I'm really excited to be here. And I'll just share my presentation and I will go through the material which I have on my presentation. But if you have any questions, please use the Q&A and ask questions, and we can, after my presentation is over, try to answer all the questions. Again, excited to be here. So I'll jump right into my presentation. Again, my name is Abhishek Bhatti. I teach at Bowling Green State University, and I do research around nonprofit, the capacity building, grant writing, and also work with a lot of other nonprofits. So agenda for today, a little bit brief overview of my past work with nonprofits. I will go through the key terms like what is AI, what is machine learning, history of AI. It just didn't come from heavens. It has been here for a good time, and just kind of talk about a little about the progression of AI. Some of the AI tools for nonprofits, also how can we use AI for grant writing. I have a thought exercise for all of us, do a real prompt here with the ChatGPT and see if we can get some grant writing going, and also some ethical consideration, and finally some conclusions. So, I'll try to be brief. My goal is to spend about 30 minutes to go through these terms and also these concepts, and then I want to spend rest time talking about these issues with you all. So I would love to get some, get some questions and all. So along with my research work, I love to work with nonprofits. That's actually where my passion comes from, get ideas to work on research topics and understand. So I have worked in past on doing some program evaluation work for small and big nonprofits. Also doing some community assessment work, the work which nonprofits are doing and why are they doing and what does the community want and how they can get the feedback from community to improve their programming and make sure that they address the needs of the community members, and also strategic planning. All of these tools are really useful to develop the capacity of nonprofits so that they can do more work and serve the community better. So and then I also have some other small research projects or strategic needs, whatever community needs. So I love working with organizations, and what you guys do is really, really important. So I want to spend some time on what AI is, right? This term gets thrown around a lot. It's really a hot topic these days, but there is not one single definition of what AI is. In simple words, it's a machine which can perform cognitive functions which are usually associated with human beings. What does that mean? I'll give some examples. One of them is our visual perception. A machine can read what's going on in the front of the screen. So like our eyes, right? Or these are human beings. This is a dog. This is a car. So machines are learning and making an assessment of like what is going on a street. This is essentially used a lot for autonomous driving, driving on the road and stuff. That's AI driven. Speech recognition, really, really ongoing and active work. Getting robocalls, I'm sure you all have gone it, and then changing the voice based off for someone else, right? Those are speech recognition, understanding what you're saying on your phone, and getting help. I'm sure you all have frustration of talking to airline companies about that. So that's speech recognition. Also, it has gone a step up in which it can translate languages as well. So I speak in Mandarin, it can get automatically translated in English. So a lot of good stuff happening through voice recognition as well. Text generation, I'm sure you all have heard of ChatGPT. We will talk about ChatGPT or about Grant. I ask a question to the machine and machine gives me a human-like answer. That's text generation. I can upload certain information. It will also give me what are people talking about, key insights. So that's text generation. We will talk extensively about that, and also language translation. Really, really ongoing active field in which we can translate different languages so that people can understand at the real time. I'm sure you have logged into Zoom and seen that there is transcription of what you're talking. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. So these are some of the ways in which AI is taking over and has been really growing fast. So essentially, this is a definition of AI. This chart, I love this chart. It shows the brief history of where AI started to what it is today. So it started back in 1950s, and it has gone through a lot of progressions over a period of time. And then there was this natural language processing models back in 2000, actually, from which ChatGPT is made. And then finally to ChatGPT, which created a big news in 2022, right? So I'm sure you all have heard about, hey, Alexa, buy me that book on Amazon, right? That is all AI. So, and I'll have some more examples of Siri. These are all AIs. These were small baby steps to where we are today. And people and researchers say that AI is right now a toddler. So in 2022, when ChatGPT came, it was a baby, now a toddler. And it's that baby is growing really fast. So there's more of AI to come. So again, like this is just not anything new. This has been happening for a while. Now we're seeing all these matrices come together. So what's the difference between AI and traditional software? And I think this is a key difference, right? So like a Word is a software which is, you're making decision of what to write, what to bold, what to increase the font size of. This is all human entered information, which is giving you, and it's your ideas, which is giving you some output, which will be a printout or a book paper or something like that, right? But these are software which are making our life more easier. I mean, rather than typewriting everything, we have a document in which we can type, change fonts, and even take multiple copies, right? So this has made our life easy. The difference between a software and an AI is, an AI is making decisions for human beings. A good example of this is you all watch Netflix or any other video streaming platform. You watch certain videos or movies or TV shows, and it gets an idea that is what you like. So you like action movies or you like documentaries, and that's when the software or the AI is telling us what to watch. So when the decisions are made by a machine, that is AI. And that's the difference between a software versus an AI. So there's a learning going on based on what you're doing to give us suggestions to things which we don't know about, right? So that's the key difference. And the way it happens is through something called machine learning. But essentially, machine learning is, we as human beings are giving data to a machine which keeps learning the patterns to understand that this is what, this is where you're going. A good example of this will be spams. So when you have, in your Gmail account or wherever, when you get these like 100 emails a day, which are like useless, right? You're telling that this is a spam, and everyone is doing that at the same time. What that gives data to Google is that if I see this particular name or a subscribe or whatever, right? I know it's a spam because 99 people have said so, that I'm going to do it for everyone. So it automatically starts filtering information so that we don't have to do that anymore. It does it for us. And the reason why AI is able to make decisions for us is because we train that machine to do things which a human being will do. And that's a critical part of that AI, that machine learning, and that infinite potential of the machine to learn more things, right? I mean, we all want to learn 100 things, but we can't because we have limited times and we're just human beings. A machine can. And that's the core difference between it. So we give a raw data, we train the data on a small sample, and then the machine picks up that pattern and does it for everyone. And so Gmail has been doing for it. And that is a core of AI, which is machine learning. I want to straight away jump to some of these concepts because you all work in nonprofits. I'm sure you're here to know how does this affect your work. So these are some big tools which are currently present and being used for AI. An Otter AI, which is the first one right here, is an AI tool which records your meetings, virtual or otherwise, take notes for you, and also gives you action items. So you don't have to take notes anymore. So that's a machine doing it for you. It's been extensively used. AI is also a similar version of this is in Zoom. You record a video or your presentation, it automatically transcribes it for you and tells you this is what you talked about in an hour. Microsoft is another major player in AI, and Microsoft has Copilot. And Copilot can analyze data and give you insights of what the data is telling you. So it can read the data, give you graphs, and then also give you some graphs or some insight which you didn't think of. So the machine is reading the data and developing insights for us to use and consume, and it's making decisions because when you analyze data, you make decisions. So Microsoft Copilot is a big player in AI, which has been extensively used by nonprofits. The other category of tools which are used by nonprofits and are gaining a lot of popularity, honestly, you probably would have heard of ChatGPT. We will talk about it. But essentially, ChatGPT is a language processing platform in which you write a prompt and it gives you a type of human response back. And Google, so ChatGPT is by a nonprofit, actually, it's a nonprofit called OpenAI. And they have a ChatGPT as a tool. Gemini is a tool by Google, similar to ChatGPT. It was earlier Bard, but essentially the same thing. We give a prompt and it give us some insight. Hey, how to make tacos, and I'll just write it, and I'll give a recipe from tacos, right? So that is all human-like tests being generated. And I will spend some time on ChatGPT today to write grants. Second platform is second level of these tools, which are used by or created by companies using some of these tools above, right? So I don't know if you have heard of it, but there are these two big platforms coming. One is Change Finder, and other is Grantable, which can write grants for us. So, something which you're here for today, how to do it. But there are these tools or these websites in which you can submit an RFP and it can write something for you. It's gaining a lot of popularity. And of course, you might have to subscribe and give them some money, right? It's not unfortunately free. ChatGPT is free. Then there is also a strong, and I have to say this, there is much more AI used in fundraising than it's used in grant writing. And there's obvious reason for it, because fundraising can be quick. I want AI to write me a short post on my social media page. I can just put a prompt, it can give me something, I can put it on the social media. But grant writing are more extensive work. So there are far more tools available for fundraising. And I can answer any questions about this if you have it. So there is Dotero, which is really big. And then there's Donor Search, which can get insights to what your donors list looks like, and then give you some insights so whether you should do a grass sale or a silent auction, and can develop some pretty graphs, get some understanding of who our repeated donors are, also maybe making some social media posts, so it can automate all that stuff. These are just handful. Actually, when I was preparing and doing research for this webinar, I was shocked by how many. It's like popping up every day. There are like thousands of tools now present for nonprofits which are based on AI. So what about AI and grant writing, right? So off the bat, don't freak out. This has been happening for a while, and I will go through some of the positives from using AI in grant writing, and I'll obviously go to some of the ethical consideration as well. Honestly, this is the new normal. AI is here to stay and will get better at time. There is no doubt about it. When ChatGPT was launched in November of 2022 to today, it's better. It's better than what it was just in 2 years. So AI is here to stay, and we have to use, and it's a tool, right? Like, we have to find a way to use it and use it efficiently. So that's the reality. And there's a reason why AI can help grant writing, right? We all know that grant writing is a laborious work. It requires a lot of time, and often organizations which tend to have more resources, you have a grant writer on staff, or you can hire a consultant or someone who can keep finding grants, tend to get more grants, because you won't get a grant if you write one, right? You have to write one to get one, and it takes time to write one. So if it's a smaller organization with 2 or 3 people, you're spending a lot of time. I'm sorry about the train. Just open the window. But you're spending a lot of time just writing these grants. So using these tools can make the process more efficient. And also there are inequalities within the racial lines. We know that the minority-led organizations get lesser grants. Part of the problem is there's a lot to do with limited time. So AI can be used to actually make the process more efficient and more equitable. What it can also do is strengthen programs. So, rather than continuously writing grants and looking for grants and spending numerous time doing so, and then likelihood of getting them is pretty low, what it can also do is you can automate the work. You can use the tool to be more efficient and focus on the programs, what you're writing the grants for, right? So strengthen service delivery, strengthen organization capacity, have diversity of board and leadership, because these are also important part of growing an organization, right? I often get asked, how do I raise more money? But the question is, do you have organization in place to raise more money? Like, it's a teamwork which goes. It's not just all about raising money all the time. You're raising the money to develop the capacity of the organization. And if you can make your life more efficient with AI, this will be a good thing to do. Secondly, the fourth point is really important, and I'm sure you all have experiences. You have one grant proposal, and every year you have to submit a new proposal of that grant proposal to get funding. But essentially, you're working on a project which is 10 years long, but you cannot submit the old proposal. So you have to find ways to rewrite the same stuff which you have already written it twice. Now, you can use AI to change that a little bit, hey, reword this, and it can reword it for you. And then same proposal, which you have continued to do over a period of time, which you know how to do, you will get funded, you can use the tool to actually be more efficient with it. Then, it can also make the process more efficient. Absolutely, and I can show you some examples. If you know how to use the tool well, you can make the process more efficient and also invest on strengthening the capacity of the organization. And finally, you can automate few things, right? Thank you notes, small things which are pretty much the same. You can use AI to automate few things. One of the things which I struggle with, and I use ChatGPT for the reason, is actually starting to write. I mean, once I have written something, it's easier for me to retweak it and work on it, but starting to write is often very hard. And it can give me something, right, really quick, and I can use it and I can reword on it and I can work on it and improve it, right? So it can automate few things, especially simple things like writing a cover letter. I can get something and I can retweak it and I can work on it and make it on my own, which I want to talk about. I cannot copy and paste and send that stuff to other people. Of course not. But it is the first starting point, and knowing that is important. So AI is here to stay, and it's about using the tool well. So I want to do a simple grant writing exercise. And what I want to do is I have done some screenshots here. But those of you who do not know, you have to create an account on ChatGPT. It gives you a prompt like this. You can see how to make a sandwich, write a thank you note and stuff like that. But you can also give it some more specific prompts. So if you go to chat.openai.com, it will ask you for a prompt, and you will say, okay, this is my email address and whatever, and then you have an account with ChatGPT. Now, once you do have an account with ChatGPT or you already use it, I have created two prompts here just to give a thought exercise of what it looks like. So one of the grant proposal, and this is from a real grant, I just copied that grant proposal, is describe the community need your organization is addressing and how your organization is working towards meeting these community needs. Okay, so that's a simple grant proposal prompt I'm sure you all have heard and seen before. What I do on ChatGPT is I take this, I reword it a little bit and make it a little bit of my own. I'm based in Bowling Green and I'm actually very passionate about food security. So I say, okay, describe what community need food pantries solving in Bowling Green. And just type it, and within seconds, I get this long 1,000 words right up here. Food pantries solving a critical role in addressing food insecurity, access to nutrition food, alleviating hunger, supporting vulnerable population, promoting health and well-being. So it gives me something to work on, right? So I take this and I kind of use this like, okay, this is something which I can use for my organization. This is something for which I cannot. So I leave that stuff. I add some more data to it. And so it gives me something to work with. And then I have this data or this search, and I can retweak a little bit based on what I want this to be. So I did something, right? So this is essentially copying it like the whole thing again, but like it gives me some amount of idea of where what the community needs this food pantry solving, right? I asked few more things to the ChatGPT and I say, okay, describe community needs in less than 300 words. And I get this write-up because a lot of these write-ups are like 300 or 400 words. Food Pantry is based in Bowling Green, addressing issues of pervasive food issues of food insecurity in the communities. Now, I have this and I can say, well, in Wood County, where I am based, there is 30% food insecurity. So I start with the first statement, Food Pantry is involved by the source of addressing pervasive food issues within the community. And in Wood County, there is 30% food insecurity. And I can add data wherever I can to my organization and link my mission to the organization. And now I have something written within a matter of, hour or 2 hours or so, like first prompt. And I take this. So I'm not saying use this prompt and just apply for the grant today, but get this prompt, add your own information, add data from your organization, add anecdotes which working in the community, and make this your own. And then you have an efficient grant proposal here, first draft of it, right? That's just one example of how to use ChatGPT, and I can talk a little bit more in the Q&A. More specific examples as well, but I thought this could be one good way to start the process going for you to practice. And I really encourage you to write a grant proposal for your area, what you work on, and the communities you serve. So I do want to touch on some ethical considerations of using AI. And these are really, really, really important. I mean, I think it's more important than actually using AI. First is data privacy, which is that before you use any tool, which could be ChatGPT or Google Gemini or anything, you should know, even for the organization or for individual, where is the data stored, how is the data collected, and who has access to this data. And this really becomes important if you're uploading donor list, which is their email addresses or their names. Also, any other information which has certain amount or effect of that storing and saving, because I mean, there are some sensitive information which nonprofits work with, like, health data or some demographic data. So one has to be really careful of how this information is stored and collected and shared. For example, everything you share at ChatGPT is stored in the OpenAI servers. There's a whole history there. And it's actually used to train the algorithm to be better. So all the prompts are actually helping machine to be better. So you have to be really, really, really careful about data privacy. I can't stress on this more. Second issue is there is no shortcuts. It is a tool to make our lives more efficient, but it cannot replace human beings. Absolutely cannot replace human beings. It cannot replace creativity of human beings. It cannot replace human connection. It also cannot replace the sincerity and the emotions you bring to your work. So when you're writing an email, say to a donor or to other nonprofit, you have to be careful of that. You cannot totally rely on the AI. Write me an email to thank the donor, and then you get something and you copy without even looking at it and pasting it. It may have some information, or it may have some tools which are not correct, or something. So you have to be very careful. I remember one example of this is the chatbot example in which it was National Disorder Organization, which got hit pretty hard during the COVID time. So they had a chatbot in which people were asking, what should I eat? I have anxiety. And the chatbot was giving biased, wrong, unscientific information to the people, which are the members of this organization, which are going on. So, if you're running a crisis center and somebody's asking for help, and then the chatbot is saying stuff which is like, don't be stressed, or something which is totally counter to your mission, that will be a huge, huge problem. So dealing with donors, dealing with beneficiaries, dealing with other organizations, you cannot just say, okay, let the machine take care of this. No, they can't. Machines are relying on us, and we have to be a very important component to make this tool very efficient. So there is no shortcuts to AI. It is an efficient tool which we should use, but it cannot replace human beings. It cannot replace the creativity of human beings. Aware of the biases. AI is reputed to have biases against people of color, women, people of disability, LGBTQ community, and other minority groups. Because part of it is scraping data from the internet, and there could be bias present in the data, and then it will give you a biased information. And just relying on that biased information can actually create a lot of problems, and of course, may be counterintuitive to the mission of the organization. So one has to be really careful about the biases which are operating in the data. And hence, getting to know how is this data being analyzed is really an important tool, and where is this information coming up? And the fourth point was very much in the news before, which is, AI tools give, including chatbots like GPT, gives unverified information, and sometimes even fake data. They just make things up, and so you can't just feel like, oh yeah, I have asked ChatGPT of like how many people are food secure in Wood County, and it spits me a number that's a correct number. I have to go and do my due diligence to find that is the number of people who are affected by food insecurity or a causal relationship, right? Domestic violence and stuff. So there has to be it's very important to know that this is just a machine which is copying, pasting. It's copying and pasting and giving us information. That doesn't mean it can critically analyze the information like human beings. So hence, human intervention is important. Fifth point, especially at the university level, is really important of plagiarism. Like copying and pasting stuff is just unethical. You're using other people's work and just copying and pasting, and that may be ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is reliant on other people's work and just giving it to you. That means you're using other people's work without giving them credits. That is a serious concern. And then finally, it's the lack of personal touch. It's a machine. I'm sure you have read cover letters or some other emails. When you read it and you're like, this seems like it's written by a machine. Like it's not AI. I mean, it seems like AI now. Everybody says it's AI, but then machine. But having that human connection is really important. And human beings are emotional beings, right? So especially if you're doing fundraising or you're doing grant writing, people are moved by stories of how the organization have helped other people, and incorporating that story is really important. It can give us some working information, but it cannot replace us. Again, like that's the recurring theme. So you have to bring in the emotion, you have to bring in the data into it. So it has to have a personal touch to it. And that is also really important ethical consideration here. So here's are some of my concluding thoughts. AI is here to stay, and it will grow. And nonprofits are increasingly using AI for grant writing, for fundraising, for efficiency sake, and it will continue to grow in this space. Automate tasks or boilerplate statements or reiterating the same stuff, like use AI to do stuff which with the proper human intervention and understanding where this data is coming from and what biases it may have to actually make your life easy. You have to use the tool to make your life easy. It cannot replace human beings. It just cannot. Creativity is what is critical here for growth of nonprofits, but use it, but know that like it's just to make my life easy. Like typing on computer is easier than typing on typewriter, and then making 100 copies on typewriter. We just don't even think about it. It's a tool to make our lives easy. It cannot replace human connections. So making connections, talking to the donors, talking to the beneficiaries, talking to other organizations, talking to funding agencies, sending base, touching, writing newsletters. All of this is an important part of growing of nonprofits, and AI cannot replace that, right? The human connection is really important. It can make our life more efficient. It cannot replace us. Do not write a blank check to AI it needs human intervention. Essentially, you may say, okay, write me this one paragraph about food insecurity in Wood County or Lucas County, and it sends me something. I just copy it and I send it away. I will be in trouble because I may be doing plagiarism. I'm copying other people's work. I may have data which is biased, or I may actually just outright have data which is not verified or even sometimes incorrect. So I'm in real trouble because of that. But knowing that is important for me to know that these are some of the areas which I have to avoid there. And it's really important to know that so you shouldn't be thinking of writing a blank check there. Use technology smartly. It's a tool like no other. And tools are made to make our life easier. And if the technology is used well, it can save a lot of time. I mean, that's the key. It can save a lot of time. So use this as just a tool, not as like, now I got the blue pill and everything will be solved. I will have tons of money in my organization. No, you still have to do your work. Add story and data to the AI generated text and make it yours. It's really important. So as I was giving an example of the of food insecurity or a work of food pantry, I have the text. I have some key points. Food insecurity affects people, it affects marginalized people, it affects children. Now I can add data and information and stories based on my work to say, well, sure, these things are there, but this is what my organization is doing. And then I do have a document which is strong and ready. And I can feed the same document to the AI and get a iterative version of it for next year when the funder is asking me for applying for the grant again. I can get some good graphs from Copilot and I can add it. I can get some automation of social media posts and then just make a timeline of it and it will get automatically posted. So there are ways I can automate my work. I can be more efficient. But again, there's no replacement of creative ideas and actually problem solving. So use that tool to develop strength and organization capacity, the time which you're getting using this tool to actually grow the organization. That's all for me. I'm hoping to have some more discussion here. Plus, please write questions, thoughts, or even say hi, and I'll add my stop my share screen here, and I'm looking forward to a discussion.
I have a question, Abhishek, that many people may be thinking of. As we write grants, many times we need to use statistical information. Can you use AI to access the census data, for example, or any other databases that could help us collect information that's statistical?
Not at this point. So at this point, it essentially, if the data is very widely used, so like what is the population of United States, that may be widely used data. It may give us some information but to get particular information and to get verified information, I still have to do my due diligence to go to census tract data and see the demographic information I'm solving. I cannot rely on AI because that may be very pertinent to a particular county or a geography, and I want to make sure the data is verified and correct. And hence, I have to go to those websites, Bureau of Economic Affairs, Census Tract, and other websites, which I know will have correct data to get the data. So there's no shortcut of getting the data at this point.
Great, thank you. We encourage you again to put your questions on the question and answer feature of the Zoom. Or you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
If you raise your hand, I can give you permission to speak if you'd prefer to ask your question. Sue Berryman did say great information, so thank you. All right, so Michelle Klinger, I know that Bing and Google's AI has multiple modal access, but I don't believe that GPT-3 has. Can you speak about that?
Can you, Michelle, can you elaborate on that multimodal access? What do you mean?
Yeah, let me unmute her.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I I had heard and I had taken a class that spoke about Bing and Google's AI actually pulling information that it gets off the internet, where ChatGPT was using its own internal system to grab information. So if I was, for instance, if I was planning an event for a nonprofit, that I should use Bing or Google's AI, because they would be able to get me costs for hotels and event spaces, and ChatGPT wouldn't be able to do that.
Yes, thank you for clarifying. And that is my understanding. Because part of the issue is where you're getting the data. So ChatGPT scrapes data. It was scraping the data which was copyrighted earlier, but then there was a lawsuit and they stopped doing it. So they're scraping data which is not copyrighted. And but on the other hand, Google actually has this internal models like Google Hotels, flights, and stuff like that. So it has this model in which is actually collecting all the data. So, seeing what people are searching about, where the flights are, and then they can use the data to actually feed into the AI models to get us understanding of, okay, this is what you're thinking of hotels in Toledo area cost this much. So they do have more insights into that because they're collecting that data and they have it on their platform, whereas ChatGPT cannot get into the Google data set.
Thank you.
And I will be, again, going back to Milva's point, I will be also cautious of actually using the data. I mean, I'll trust Google data because they do have collected a lot of data from us for free and they're using it now, but I still want to cross-check the data and make sure it's relevant because I don't want to take the risk of unverified data. Now, it can help me a little bit to get some ballpark picture to get started, but it's not going to be 100% reliable data. And I also want to talk about a little bit about some of the fundraising apps, AI apps here a little bit. So there are some fundraising apps which are AI driven, in which if you give your donor information, which is their email address and their house address, it can actually tell us a lot more things about those donors. That could be their political identity, net worth, what do they like, what not, because there are these different data sets which are available online, which are not at this point integrated, right? So there's a lot of information about us, which is on the web. And then these models are able to pull that information from these different sources. And now they are not free. Of course, you have to pay for these models, but it can give us an insight. Well, there's a possibility that you should actually have a silent auction because the donors like silent auction rather than a physical, like an auction in which you have to say the cost, or they may prefer Zoom meeting versus virtual meetings and stuff like that, because they do have this information they have collected and there's a lot of tabulation of that data there. There's a whole new area of AI, whole new area of tools which are getting to that level of information about donors and beneficiaries and other things if you want to use it. I do have my own personal opinion about it, but there are more focused AI tools out there which can give you the information what you want, but of course you have to pay a price for it.
We have another question from Armand Bushi. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a multiple question. It says, are foundations or grant providers using AI to initially view submissions? That's the first part of the question. Do you want to answer that quickly and then we'll continue with the rest?
Yes. So yes. Yeah. So they're running all that information through a system, and I mean, that's another part of the problem a little bit on the supply side of things. So, so I did talk about, right, like, grant writing using AI can be more accessible. It can certainly be more efficient and less time consuming, and hence everyone can do it. You don't need to have a big team to do it, or you don't have to have a professional consultant grant writer to do it. So then what other ways is happening is that there is a lot of floods of grant proposals now coming to funders, because there are a lot more people doing it. So it's really overwhelming from a fundraiser point of view, from a grant or community foundation or a foundation point of view, because you're getting so many of them, and then you cannot verify a lot of that information, because earlier you were hoping that the nonprofit who is submitting a grant is doing their due diligence to make sure the numbers are correct. What they're telling is actually true, they work on the grounds. But now the funders are the ones who have to do that due diligence to make sure that the organization they're funding is actually true, right? Nothing is bad reputation to a funder to know that the project they funded was actually AI written, right?
Mhm.
That's just terrible, right? Like that means that you're not, as a funder, doing your due diligence. And now, so there are tools out there to run all those submissions through an AI platform, which can say whether this was copied or that was copied, right? Now, if you have used the tool and made it your own, right? You have used the tool to write some write-up, but added some data, personal narrative, changed a few things around, and all you have is some boilerplate statements. My organization is serving underserved community. That is totally fine, right? So I mean, as the nonprofits are getting savvy, so are the funders. That's just the fair game.
The other part of the question is, are companies using the same for resumes or job applications?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word, but yeah, they are. Again, like they're overwhelmed by the amount of applications organizations are getting. And I mean, you have to also see the problem here a little bit from a human resource perspective. A lot of funders are based on volunteer work of members of the community reviewing these grant proposals. And there's that much a human can do, right? I mean, it takes a lot of time to read those proposals to make sure to make a due diligence. So if you're getting a lot of applications which are machine written, it just overwhelms the whole system. So you have to find ways in which you want to make sure that this is not written by just simple AI, right? There is some degree of human intervention in present. And so fairly easy tools out there. I know Zero GPT is one of them. You just feed the document and it will tell you how much of it is copied. And that's another part of the data privacy and protection, which I was talking about in my first slide, in my previous slide. When we share any prompt to GPT, we're actually training the machine to be better. So everything stays with ChatGPT. So when you have a Zero GPT, it will actually catch it. I actually have an anecdote by this. I was a little shocked. So I was asked to write a cover letter for a journal article. I wrote something, I fed into ChatGPT to say it, edit it, or proofread it. It gave me something which was profoundly more beautiful than I have written, and I felt bad, but I used it. And then I fed it into Zero GPT. It said it's 100% copied, but it wasn't. It was my work, which it just made it prettier. So you have to be really careful about what you're uploading there and how you're using it. So in that way, I would say if you're using the AI to do some proofreading, use Grammarly, because Grammarly is a subscription-based service. It's not an open source. So your work stays with you. It's not like copied to 100 or 1,000 more people. So you have to be really careful of how you're using that information, especially donor information. So there is a lot of data privacy part of it.
So the last part of this question, and I know we have a few more questions coming and a hand that is raised, is if so, what keywords or comments are they looking for aside from that the grant application matches what the foundation is looking to support?
So I don't know the answer to that question, but I will imagine that they just feed the whole application to a system which tells you a score of how much it is copied. It's like any plagiarism test. So it will give this document is 30% copied, and they have a threshold 30 or 35 or whatever. I know some grant organization only have a 10% threshold. So it's not just about the keywords here, but it will get copied. But if you want to ask a question like, how do I make sure that my resume is not styled by AI and it actually goes to a human being to read it, then I would say tailor the resume to the job application. You have to use the same words which are in the job application, which you actually included in your resume to make sure there's a match of those words. And when that match happens, that will get screened and it will go to a human being to review it.
So let's go to Sarah Twitchell, who has her hand raised. Sarah, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question or comment.
Hi, so I teach grant writing at the college level, and this semester I gave permission for my students to use AI if they wanted to do that. So far, I have not, and my caveat was that they had to tell me that they were doing that and how they were going to use AI, because I was just curious about, what they would do with it. So far, I haven't had any takers. But my question is, one of the things I really struggle with my students is that they're so academic in their writing to begin with, right? That's always a problem. And so I'm wondering, if you use AI, does it make your writing more normal, less academic? Or that's just kind of, and I haven't done much, so I don't know.
Yeah. That's a great question. So I do the same. I do a similar thing actually. I often I ask students if they have used it, and they never say it in the class that they have. But if I have one-on-one conversations with them or some in a small group, they all agree that they use AI to write. So it's pervasive, and it's pervasive in all the nonprofits. And I think part of the problem is there is that feeling that if you're using AI, you're cheating. And people don't like to admit that they're cheating. So, but it's been used. And I think it just as a tool, I think we have to destigmatize it so that people understand it's a tool and it's being used. But to get to your argument, a question about does it make work less academic? I think it depends on some AI tools you're using. There are some AI tools which are specially focused on academic writing. I can think of one example, which is Elicit, which actually collects all the literature on a particular research question and gives it to you. So it can do a quick literature review, and its citations are pretty solid. That company has risen a lot in the last 2 years, and it can actually write academic work. So there are tools which are only present, which can be used for academic writing, which are much more sophisticated than ChatGPT. But I think the good thing of ChatGPT is also it makes it more generalizable. So you can reach out to a larger audience. Hey, explain this to me in a 5th grade language, or like a Shakespeare, and it will.
Thank you.
Michelle Clark is asking, do you have any hints about asking better questions of ChatGPT in order to get a more relevant answer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So think of ChatGPT as a toddler. It's your toddler. It will grow. The more direct question you ask, you will get a direct response. So the key actually here is to ask questions to which you can get information and then tweak those things together to have a write-up. So asking questions is a critical part of getting the answer. If you ask general questions, it will give you a very general response. But if you ask very specific questions, it will give you a specific response to an extent that it doesn't have a response. So like what I do with it is like I break the task into small pieces, like, brick by brick approach. So I ask the prompts, like for instance, I asked about how does a food pantry serve the community need? And it gives me a whole write-up. Then I say, give me a write-up in 300 words. It gives me a write-up. Then I can say, well, if I'm based in Bowling Green, I say, most of the people are at median income is $45,000. How does the food pantry affect that? I will give a response. So I'm able to see a problem from different lenses using a minutes of work, and I can recompile that information when I'm writing. So I'm actually able to analyze that from multiple people rather than just me viewing a problem. So prompts are important. It has to be narrow and it has to be specific. And then I collect that information and I use my own creativity and my critical thought to compile the write-up.
And then a question from Katie Buckley. Is there a way to use AI to find keywords and phrases to include in a proposal? She says, I know a lot of screening tools will look for keywords in cover letters and resumes. So I was wondering if it was the same for grants.
Right. So I think it's the other way around, which is that the AI has grown so much that it can read the whole text rather than just the keywords. it's much more powerful than it was 10 years ago. So it doesn't need to filter keywords out. What it does, it reads the whole text like a human being will. It doesn't understand any of it. It just reads it. So when you're thinking of, you don't have to, I don't think, in my humble opinion, I don't think at this point we have to worry too much about the keywords. But what we have to worry about is not including those keywords to get rejected. So if the proposal asks, what is the community need your organization is addressing? And in that write-up, I do not have the word community need, I'm missing the shot here. Absolutely. So including the words which are included in the RFP request proposal is actually critical for me to not get screened. So it's other way around, actually.
Great. Anybody else has any other questions? If not, we are closing the webinar right in time. And we would like to thank Dr. Batty for such valuable information. We will be sharing his PowerPoint presentation with those who attended here today. And we will have a recording of this webinar on our website in a few weeks or so. And if you have any questions about the center and the services that we offer to help you build capacity for your nonprofit, you can visit our website or call us or email me, and we'll be glad to help you. And also, if you would like to have Dr. Batty contact information directly, we have it on the screen right now, and it will be sent to you also on the email that we will send with the PowerPoint. And again, I wanted to remind you that we have some upcoming workshops. The first one is going to be on June 11th. These are in-person workshops, and that one is going to be on succession planning. And that is going to be followed on June 24th with a workshop related to the Giving USA report and donor advised funds. And then we resume with workshops after the summer in the fall. In September with a relationship marketing workshop. In October, we're partnering with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Northwest Ohio chapter, in bringing you a workshop on comprehensive fundraising plan. And in November, we are doing our final workshop related to financials for nonprofit organizations. So we hope that you enjoyed today's webinar, that you got some tips and learn more about AI, and it doesn't seem so scary to you anymore. And again, please contact us at the center or Dr. Batty if you have any more questions about the topic today or other services that you may need to help you build capacity. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in person at one of our next workshops. Thank you.